guess it's on me.
It's you.
Yep. Well, welcome to the Pundits Pundit. I am Denzel Snipes, and I'm here with all my colleagues. Uh, the ringleader himself, he's actually getting up some rest because the gentleman and lady that you see to the right hand side will be at the NFL Draft 2024 next week, live from Detroit. So, Scott and Kenny got a bit of a long road trip. Jeremy and George are going to meet up somewhere and walk to the draft. I don't know. So, so yes, absolutely. And everybody, please keep in tune with everything live from both South Florida Tribune and the Sideline Sports Network covering the NFL draft because we got a loaded one this year. But speaking of tonight, we got a loaded show. And with that being said, I'm going to swing it to Candy real fast to shoot a couple of ads at you and then we roll right into the show. Go ahead.
All right. Well, you know what? The person that's going to do most of the driving, he actually wrote this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble. It's also available on Apple Books and Google Books now. But get your copy. It talks about 40 plus years in the media industry and how the media industry has changed over the years. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. See all of our great content because George writes, Jeremy writes, Scott writes. I take pictures. I suppose I could write, but I think I've only wrote once or twice. I think I've written one or two articles there, but you know what? I'm better behind the camera. I like to see through the lens. But if you like podcasting, listen to us all the places you get your podcast. But most importantly, there's a red subscribe button. Click that red subscribe button and share us with everybody else. If you already are one of our subscribers, thank you. But now subscribe to other people's channels and share it to everybody else. So there you go. Back to Denzel.
All right. And so you heard about how you can reach out to the South Florida Tribune and what all you need to do. Say, go to, here we go, Roberts. If you got to ride in the banana car, rode it once at the Tigers game. Okay, I don't know about banana car or anything. But also, be sure you actually follow us on the Sideline Sports Network on YouTube. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. And also, you can catch us every Monday, every night of the week. All right. But we'll get to all of that at the end. But we got a great show for you. We're going to start off with former Brave Gary Cooper and what's been going on with him, and a little introduction about him, a short intro because if you blink, you would have missed him in history. But he only played for 1 year for the Atlanta Braves in 1980. He spent 42 days on the Braves roster. In total, in his career, in his one season, he's had 21 appearances for the Braves, only 2 at-bats, he's scored 3 runs. But here's what's been going on with him as of late is he spent 42 days on the Braves roster, and the MLB requirement to receive a pension is 43 days. So there's currently a pension circling around to put him on a roster for 1 day just so we can qualify for an MLB pension. I think that this actually, if the Braves were to pull this off, this would be a great move for somebody. I don't really quite know the situation if he's struggling or anything like that. But I mean, he made it to the highest level, and I think he kind of deserves a little bit more change in his pocket for the rest of his life, however much that may be. But I want to swing it over to George and get your thoughts about this because this I know we covered somebody, and I was trying to remember him as the day was going on. In basketball who needed something like this for medical reasons. And it's like this story all over again, minus the medical reasons. But George, take it away with your thoughts.
Yeah, Denzel and crew, this is an amazing a heartbreaker, really, when you think about it, because and Gary Cooper's not the only one that this happens to. When you have a situation where you don't qualify for a pension or where you got screwed out of your pension, trust me, I've heard stories from friends of mine who had these jobs and then the companies went belly up and their pension got screwed and they're in really tough shape. It's a sad situation. So it's not only sports that deals with this, it's everyday Americans, everyday people around the world that have these close but no cigar encounters with their future, their livelihood, their financial future. They're surviving on some of these pension incomes. So here we got Gary Cooper, who's just I looked him up, and he's he's only like about 10 months younger than me. So Gary was born right before Christmas in 1956. And like you said, I mean, he had basically a cup of coffee in the big leagues. He debuted in August of 1980. And then, of course, the season came to an end October 5th of 1980. So he played in 21 games only. He only had 2 at bats. They used him as a pinch runner.
Yeah.
He had, because he was a good runner, they used him to steal some bases and stuff. But yeah, the Atlanta Braves, that's the only team he played for in the big leagues in such a short time. A short time, really. He went to Robert Groves High School in Garden City, Georgia. So, I mean, when I hear these stories, your heart kind of aches and you hope for what they call exceptions, or if the like this case, if the major leagues or the Players Association could make an exception, it would really help this young man out. And I say young, he's 67, but still, he obviously needs to get some support there for himself and his family. So it is. I'm glad you guys brought that up tonight because it's a delicate situation, I know. But come on, if we could help people out like this, we'll be much better off in living our life and in this world.
Yep. Agreed. Totally. And again, as I stated before, whenever you make it to the highest level, and no matter whether play in 42 games or you played 12 years or 22 years, you should be compensated for it. But I want to swing this over to Candy and get your thoughts about this. Should he be on a roster for 1 day so he can get that pension that, well, probably should have been given to him, I don't know, 40 something years ago?
So my question is why should we hold an MLB player to a different standard than the rest of us in life? Let's face it, for me, for most businesses to be what should I say, to earn a pension, you have to be with the company for X amount of, and it's not days for most of us, it's years.
Years.
I can tell you it was 7 years with one of my jobs before I was 100% vested and could get my pension. We're talking 43 days for him. Now, the controversy I was reading is that he was on the team for 42 days. The 43rd day was supposed to be a game played. It was rained out, but he was sent then down to the minors and never hit that last day.
Mm.
But my question also is, why didn't you ever think of coaching so you would get that one more day? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get everybody's point, like, oh, it's only 1 day. But here, I also work in the banking industry. And I've had so many people come to me and say, you charged me a fee because I was short in my account X dollars. So then what we did is, okay, if you're short by, X $25 or $50, we won't charge you a fee. Like, there's always got to be a finite rule, like a line, I guess.
Right.
And you got to cut it off someplace.
Yeah.
And I think we have to know how to circumvent it, or so he only played for 42 days. He knew that how long ago? Why didn't he try getting into coaching? And maybe he did, but if we start saying that the rule was 43 and you only made 42, you're always going to move that line. And where do you stop? Because now if you move the line to 40, the person that only played 39 is going to be.
Yep.
Well, I have sympathy, don't get me wrong, but a rule is a rule. And like, I can't imagine playing a sport or working a job for 43 days and then earning a pension for life. That to me, just, I guess I'm a business person. And obviously I said I was in banking. There, to me, I guess, and the other reason, it's not like he was injured. It's not like an injury cut him and that's why he stopped playing. He wasn't good enough. They moved him down to the minors.
Yeah.
I never played a day in baseball because I'm not good enough, so I don't get a pension from baseball.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
Hey, and you know what? That's totally understandable. And you also alluded to it too. See, if he was only on the roster for 12 days, no one would, you know what I mean? But it's the fact that he was right there at the goal line. And yeah, I'm with you on that one. I don't know nowhere where you can stay 43 days and get a pension, but apparently that was their rule. That was their standard, you know? It's, and granted, you understood it, you know, it's like he's right there at the doorstep. And then why didn't he go into coaching? There's a lot of things that, you know, that are not clear, you know, but no, it's totally justified, you know, because obviously he only played 1 year. I didn't read anything that said that he got injured or anything. I can see if he got injured or something like that, but then again, who knows? Maybe he was starting to become a locker room cancer, and they decided to get rid of him. There are just some things that don't get reported. That's also the great thing about having former athletes on, is because stuff happens on them practice fields and film rooms and locker rooms that we don't see, that don't get reported. You know, so it's anybody's guess. But I want to wrap this up with or round this out rather with Dr. Ballright down there, and get your thoughts on this situation right here. Take it away.
Jeremy, before you go, I do want to say the Braves did sign Satchel Paige back in 1968, who was then in his 60s, to the coaching staff to help him get his pension.
Now, also at the same time, and this is just me here, okay? Again, this is one of those moments where if you blink in history, you'd miss Gary Cooper. Notice the name that you said, Candy.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Do we need to explain?
Not at all.
With that said, Jeremy, take it away.
Okay, so 20 years is usually what it is for a normal job, right?
Right.
20 years to get any type of pension. And that's whether you're military, GM, working for a major corporation of any way. It's 20 years for the average human being to get a pension. If I work 9 years and 364 days, or 19 years and 364 days, guess what? I don't get my pension.
Yeah.
So he was in the league for 42 days and was demoted and never called back up for anything throughout the rest of his career. You know what that tells me? He wasn't very damn good. He doesn't deserve a pension. End of story. I don't care. Now, if he'd have broke his leg and had a career-ending injury or something like that, or anything, then 100%, yes, I could see making the exemption for that type of rule. But because he wasn't a player of Satchel Paige's caliber, who was great all the way through his semi-pro days, into the pros, and everything else. All right, Joshua Dore, thank you.
Totally. No. I totally get it. I mean, and like I said, if the Braves choose to do that for him, good for him. You know, and even I could tell you, having served in the military, if someone gets hurt and can no longer serve, they medically retire you. You still get something for the rest of your life.
Right.
You know, and we never heard of any injuries or anything like that. So yeah, that's just something that I guess I'm on the fence on this one. You know, like if they do it for him, good. But if not, I mean, I ran off his stats. They sent him to the minors. He never came back. So you know, it just is what it is.
But and Robert Wendell said actual pensions don't exist in most of the world. But at the same time, you have to work so long to be vested to even get those 401ks and equity awards and everything else. You know, you have a term limit to reach before you're able to get the full amount.
Yes.
There's very heavy tax penalties for taking that stuff out if you didn't reach your vested point.
Absolutely.
Oh, look, we already got a question about the new uniforms, too. I got to say, they are dope. They are fire. I called for the black uniforms. I ordered my rookie Hendon Hooker jersey in black last year ahead of time.
Hey, Jeremy, this is the return of the black uniform since the Joey Harrington days. Am I correct?
Well, actually, it returned again in 2011 as an alternate those 2 days. And it was amazing. You know, Because if you remember the 2011 season, we had a great season. Nobody complained about us wearing the black jerseys then.
Yeah, you
They
won
just
11. You win
complained about
11
it.
and 5, or I
Right.
think it was
They
10
just
and 7.
complain about it because we wore them in the 2008 season when we went 0-16. That's
Yeah,
why everybody associates it with the losing.
with
But
the
if you
losing.
actually look about it, the best part of the new uniforms is WCF is not on the sleeve.
It's all gone. Well, with that being said, we'll go on to our next topic.
Oh,
Some
wait,
pretty. Oh,
one more thing, because I do more research. There's about 5,000 people that have signed the petition already, and we're talking that his pension would be about $500 to $600 a month. That's it.
that's it.
That's it. That's what it would be for his age, for how long he played and stuff like that.
How
So
long
that's
you
what we're
played.
talking about.
Okay. Well, and with that being said, again, going forward, whatever turns out for him, I mean, wish him the best of luck or anything. But if it doesn't turn out, just let this be a lesson. If unless you get injured or you're actually good enough, you actually qualify for it. But I want to move on to one of the bigger news of the week, and that is the banning of Jontay Porter. Man, this right here had the whole Calvin Ridley, Pete Rose, Shohei Ohtani thing written all over it, right? No, Ohtani thing's a federal investigation going on right now. Oh, wait a second. So is this one it's about to be. I think athletes have to realize that the feds will get involved if they find you betting on sports. Have y'all ever heard of a guy named Tim Donahue? Lakers fans hate hearing that name because he handed them a championship. But that's neither here nor there. Jontay Porter was banned for life due to gambling violations. He disclosed confidential information to bettors. He limited his participation in at least one game to affect the over-under. He bet on games while in the G League. The investigation is actually still open, and let's see. The NBA is sharing info with federal authorities, so the United States Department of Justice and the FBI are getting involved. So I actually want to start off with Jeremy on this one and get your thoughts about this. We got another situation of someone who could have been a great athlete that now ain't going to be able to play no more. You see, they still haven't reinstated Pete Rose. Calvin Ridley was lucky. And, well, let's face it, the only reason why Shohei's not getting hit is because he's the face of baseball. It is what it is.
Well, and I get that, but yet Jontay Porter, he actually bet on his sport. That is the main thing. If you
Yeah.
look at it, the only two that had lifetime bans bet on their own sport.
On sport. Yep, that's true.
That's Pete Rose and now him. If they want to set a standard for another ban, it should be that kid from Memphis if he brandishes his gun ever again in public.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because I'm about done hearing about athletes doing, well, it's an actual word and it's not a cuss word, so asinine and stupid crap.
Yeah.
I mean, Plaxico Burress got to come back and he shot himself in the leg in a New York club in public.
Yeah.
And he should have never been able to come back. I can care less what your talent level is. Look at Pete Rose, career hit leader. Everything he did, World Series champion, everything else. And also how good of he was as a coach. But the thing is, as I kind of agree with one thing, he never bet on his team to lose.
Yeah.
They've tried to prove that and they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the thing about, okay, it has been basically a lifetime since he's been in there, but I bet you he gets in posthumously.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're gonna duck them in after the man dies, which would be dirty. But and you mentioned it. You talk about a guy who was a staple member of the Big Red Machine that ran the National League in the 1970s. So yeah, this one right here, and I'm not gonna sit here and say it's a slippery slope because it's pretty black and white to me. Like, dude, you bet on your own sport. Like, you kind of asked for it. But I'm gonna swing it over to George and get your thoughts on this, and maybe any thing. Well, you obviously were reporting back then with the whole Pete Rose thing. So just give your thoughts on this right here. This looks real bad.
Well, yeah, it does. This investigation's been going on 12, 13 months now. The NBA, you can't fault them at all, or the investigators. They gave this a lot of time to be investigated. I know there's still more to come, maybe, but what person in his right mind would realize his bets from $15 to $22,000? When we talked about this, Candy pointed this out on a previous show. So you're going to give up your career and your total net salary and winnings of less than $22,000. I feel sorry for this young man because obviously he's got his values messed up. And you do not ever put your job or your career on the line for doing something as silly as that. But like Jeremy said, we're tired of these athletes that do that because we know that they should think before they take action. And referring to Pete Rose, yeah, in fact, Detroit manager, as you guys know, Sparky Anderson, uh, no, he was in love with, and a lot of people were in love with Pete Rose's style of play and everything like that. What a great athlete! What a gangbuster vital cog he was, like you said, to the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. And nobody's no, nobody's taking away that suspension. He can talk about it all he wants, but there is not enough support for Rose. And like you guys said, maybe it's going to happen, but not probably until he leaves this world. And they might consider it, but it's just sad. It really is sad because, again, you've got a young man who's basing his life on his basketball ability, and he's not a superstar by any stretch. So he really should have been extra cautious about trying to stay in the league and obviously earn the income that they were paying him in Toronto. So it's a sad situation, but I think the NBA got it right. Adam Silver, good job, and all the investigators, because you just can't have that. You can't have him betting on his own sport and his own team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, and it's the crazy part about it is these NBA contracts are so loaded oftentimes. You know, it's like, why? What would you need that if you really need the extra money? Like, you could sign an endorsement, you could open a business, like something like. Did you really have to go and bet on your own sport? But I want to round this out with Candy and get your thoughts about this. Jontay Porter banned for life due to gambling violations, and also, what's the likelihood of a reinstatement in 5 years?
Okay, let's be honest. He bet $54,094 on NBA games through his associate. He won $76,059 for a net profit of $21,965. Like Denzel said, you could have gone and got a commercial deal or something or an endorsement deal for that. That's not worth it. I can't believe he was an idiot. Like, he also went as far as to disclose his health status to an individual that he knew was a bettor. That individual placed an $80,000 bet.
That is crazy.
Underperform in a game on March 20th with a payout of $1.1 million. Now, this bet was frozen by the sports book that flagged suspicious activity. So good for them for flagging that, but that's just ridiculous. Come on. Like, you're tainting with a game that you play that paid you money to play. Like, that's just wrong on like every level. And all these other sports people that are betting and getting in trouble, you do know it is against your whatever rule, whatever league you play in, NFL, NBA, and all of those. You cannot bet during your career. Stop. Go play the lottery. You can win money with the lottery. Don't bet on the game. And I don't think he's gonna get reinstated because I think he's gonna be found guilty. And so I don't see that would be a bad look. That would be a really bad look on any commissioner that would put him back in.
Exactly, especially since they never let Pete Rose back in. So that right there is wow. You can't believe you got a God-given talent and you get paid millions of dollars to play a kids game and then you go and do this. But hey, another controversial topic on yet another episode of Pundits Pundit. I'm going to swing it over to Candy now. We're at about the midway point of the show. Swing it over to Candy for a station break. Take it away, Mama Professor.
Let's pay those bills. Call Scott for if you want to advertise or sponsor a show, 954-304-4941. Listen to our audio version of the show anywhere you get our podcast. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, wherever. CastBox, Spotify, GeoSavin. I don't know. It's on like 15 different places. Go listen to us. But there's a red subscribe button. Hit that red subscribe button. Share us with other people if you're already a subscriber. Share, tell all your friends, anybody that you think would be interested. Monday nights we talk baseball. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday nights is Sports Exchange. You never know what you're going to have. Typically we have Motor City Madmouth, which is an interview show that Scott interviews one-on-one with somebody. Then Thursday nights is obviously Pundits Pundit, and then following will be Fire Up. And you never know what we're going to talk about on either of those two shows, but normally it's sports related. But Scott wrote a book. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble. Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. If you want to see a picture of young Scott with young Muhammad Ali, buy the book and check it out. Okay, back to you, Denz.
All right. Yes. Make sure you go out there and pick up your copy of Lessons from the Microphone. I've got mine. Jeremy's got his. We all got ours. Hell, it's even a background on the very screen you see right now. I see Joshua Dore. Question for the panel: who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Man, you know what? In my opinion, it's unpredictable. I really like both Dallas and the New York Rangers right now, but there also was a point in time we saw an 8th seed and the Kings win the Stanley Cup. So it's anybody's guess. I'm gonna have to take a look inside of the playoffs and see who all looks really good. I think Jimmy had taken.
Was it Florida an 8th seed last year?
They made it, but they didn't win it. Did they win?
They didn't win it, but they weren't.
They were an 8th seed. Yeah. The Kings won it. They're, I believe, the only ones in history to win it. But yeah, Florida made it last year. They did, absolutely. With that being said, we'll go on to our next topic. More NCAA. What do you know? So there is a rule change going on amongst student athletes. And basically, it's the NCAA saying, well, I'll put it to you like this. The good news is they're starting to value actual education again, But here's the rule change. Student athletes who meet academic requirements will now be granted unlimited transfers and immediate eligibility. Now, they still have to hold some things in place. So the transfer portal will remain in place, and it won't allow a player to, for example, play for 2, schools in the same season. But outside of that, year for year, if you want to hop, skip, and go to 4 or 5 schools, you can do that as long as you meet academic requirements. So I want to swing it down and get this started with Jeremy here and get your thoughts about this because, and just like we were talking with Scott earlier, it's like, yeah, academics is back, but only as an incentive. Your thoughts about that?
So now they're going to make the athletes actually either get smarter or pretend they're smarter and have better tutors so that they can transfer and play the same year. That's basically what this is breaking down to, correct?
That's what it sounds like.
If that's the case, why don't they just do away with it, let them roll and let them play? Because now they got to earn it academically instead of just on the field. And really, there's been no penalty anyways. They haven't enforced that academic stuff anyway.
Right.
Because we've seen some people come out and they have the situational and awareness and football IQ of a rock. Yep. So are they really finishing their degrees? Are they really trying to do everything right? No. They do what they want already. And this is just another way of trying to limit it just a little bit. So that way the transfer portal doesn't get as clogged like it did this year. What was it? A record 417 players at the transfer portal?
Yeah,
week
one, ridiculous.
Week 1 of the transfer portal.
That was insane. That was absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's like nowadays, and this is why I liked what school did Steph Curry go to? He went to Davidson. This is why, and we talked about this before on Pundits with Scott. He was there when we talked about it. they have a standing rule that if you want your jersey retired with honors, you must finish your degree. He went and finished his degree, so just so he could, get his jersey retired. But then you also have ones who will actually finish and graduate right while they're still in college. Jalen Hurts did it. Jalen Hurts actually just got his master's from the University of Oklahoma, but he got his bachelor's from University of Alabama while still playing. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow got his bachelor's from Ohio State University and then transferred to LSU and had that record season. So there are still a few players that are valuing education, as it goes along. And I mean, Jalen Hurts did transfer. Burrow did as well, but at least they only played for one other school, and they ended up going pretty far in the college football season. But I want to swing this over to George and get your thoughts about this. This is a different time from when you came about. I can probably safely say that.
You calling me old again? I'm your uncle, remember?
Hey, come on now.
Well, listen, this has been a game changer, we know, for the past several years in the NCAA. And so, the old rule was you had to sit out, sit out a year. And they're trying to get around that, obviously. They're so they're tying it to this academically eligible and in good standing at their previous school. And what does it say here? And meet progress toward degree requirements at the new school. But come on, folks, we know what's going on here. The whole college sports area has been an upheaval the last several years. Some fans like it. I'm not a big fan of it, but obviously it seems like it's here to stay until and unless a judge or a series of courts rules against it. So I'm not opposed to this one, and I'll tell you why, because it does link them back into the academic world. And, basically, a lot of the athletes, we know that they coast through college. We're not kidding ourselves with that. Like Jeremy mentioned, with mentoring and with tutors, the athletes are in a favorable position many times. And I'm not saying at every college, okay, don't read me the wrong way. But a lot of times that's what basically happens. So the guy's not getting along with his head coach. Oh, I'm going to transfer to Northwestern then. Well, that's not a good example because they have very high academics. But I'm going to transfer to, this college or that college. And we've seen so much of it lately. Obviously, it's making the NCAA football so more competitive. We know that. But look what it did. Supposedly, they lost one of their best coaches, Nick Saban, and Harbaugh was ready to walk. And his is a little different situation because he did go and try to bend some rules and wants to get that Super Bowl. So his is not the same situation as Saban, but they're losing good coaches and administrators because of this nonsense that's going on. All they're trying to do now is trying to put a few more reins on it and avoid the courtroom, because these teams or these kids on these teams are liable to sue. So I haven't really totally digested it. That's my early take on it, but I guess put me down as somebody who is in favor of this rule change for now.
All right. If not for nothing, because they are actually bringing back education in this one.
Yes.
It's crazy. We actually talked on this. We aired the Sports Business Insider last night. Me and Sean Russi, and just not only just doing the telecast, but just kind of listening to like the dialogue and everything. And I'm just like, man, we have reached a time where these guys are already being treated like pro athletes. Once upon a time, it was like all you had was like your football gear or your athlete, and you were hungry and you went out there and you played and you grinded because you wanted to get to the level where you wanted to get paid or whatever. And all this transferring was not even was nowhere. It was barely unheard of that someone would switch schools. There's another reason people nowadays will switch schools is because if the coach that recruited them ended up leaving, retiring, got fired, went to another school, and that's why it was generally practiced amongst recruiting or not really recruiting, but if you were seeking to pick a school, it's always follow the school, not the coach. Even though the coach recruits you, even though the recruiters recruit you, it's follow the school, not the coach, because anything can happen. That coach could get fired. That coach could leave. That coach could retire. You know. So, and then you end up just kind of leaving. And now, Caleb Williams, he followed Lincoln Riley to Oklahoma. There are some players that will follow the coach to the sun, no matter where they go, and that is what it is, you know. But at least he was already. He played a season in Oklahoma before they left. Some of these guys will transfer before they even play it down because they found out the coach got fired or whatever. But I want to switch it over to Candy and round this topic out and get your thoughts about this.
So I'm first going to quick go to the chat room because some people think we've been ignoring them. So Joshua, you asked me, well, I didn't go to Black Stone today. It's called Black Rock. And we did go out for dinner tonight. I did have a steak. And Scott ordered, let me think, he had steak and shrimp tonight. So we ate pretty good, but and Scott is going to be going to bed early. For those of you that know Scott, he loves to drive, and we are headed to Detroit, and we are going to take off after I work tomorrow a full day. So he's going to do most of the driving overnight tomorrow night. So yes, he is taking the night off per my orders to rest up so that he is awake and can feel good enough to do most of those driving tomorrow night, since I'm going to be working during the day. But we are acknowledging the chat. We do love all of you guys for coming in and chatting with us. But as far as this topic goes, I have mixed feelings because we say that at 18 you're an adult. So all these college students are adults. They can make the decisions for themselves. They go to play the sport that they want to play. They get recruited, and now because of NIL, they'll get paid for it too. And now they're not happy because for whatever reason. How is that different than if you go out into the job world and you get a job and you don't like the company that you work for, so now you want to switch to a different job?
True.
You know, I think we always think of it as just as a sport, and it is. And you're supposed to, it originally started, you went to school for school, and then you played sports. But now it's more to the point where I'm going to pick the school, not because of the school, but because who's picking me to play for that school.
Right.
So I think the dynamics of everything have changed. The dynamics of people picking a career and, you know, out of school, they get hired by one company and they stay for 30, 40 years. That just isn't happening anymore. In fact, most people will tell you if you start off in one career, you will not end your career in that same field.
True.
That you jump different careers. So why are we surprised that college students want to jump to different and play for different teams, same coach, but maybe different schools? Why are we surprised that all of these things are changing? The world has changed.
It has. It has indeed. It's just that if we have an athlete, a college athlete, that, let's say he's a quarterback, right? And he managed to transfer to like 3 or 4 schools, and on the 4th school, he finds he finds it, and he leads them to a national championship. I wonder if they will accuse them of team jumping the same way they do LeBron and everybody else. I wonder if they'll accuse them of that. Oh, well, you couldn't do that with the original school you were with 4 years ago or 3 years ago or something. I wonder if they will accuse them of team hopping or something. Jeremy, you know what I'm talking about, man.
I got something to add to that.
Go ahead, brother.
Let's talk about Joe Burrow. How he was buried on the depth chart of Ohio State behind who? One of them was Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. It was Justin Fields.
He's already proven he's 10 times the quarterback Justin Fields is in LSU, not even including his NFL career. And if he could stay healthy, he would probably be number 2 or number 3 on anybody's list as the top 5 quarterback right now.
Yeah.
It's what's keeping him out of the top 5. Justin Herbert being healthy like he's been is the only reason why he makes the top 10. But Nick Saban left not only because of that. Look at how he looked just prior to last season and how he looked going into the playoffs. He aged 15 years in 3 months.
Oh yeah.
He did
And
not have
look,
that.
got your dog check right here. There's your dog check. Here's the salute. But Joshua Addison, let's look at that. Keaton Slovis transferred away because he didn't like Lincoln Riley and he didn't think he'd start in the system. And he's right. Caleb Williams is better. He goes to Pitt. Joshua Addison found out that bum, Keaton Slovis, was coming to Pitt. He went to USC.
Oh, yep.
In the same offseason. How bad do you have to be as a quarterback when he goes, man, I want to go to Pitt because they got Joshua Addison? And he goes, oh, hell no.
And he's gone.
Right. But we don't have loyalty in the workplace because you know what? Because owners and companies don't have loyalty to their employees like they used to.
They do not.
You get a job and they say if you think you're going to be hurt, you're fired before you hit the ground. And that was at a construction job. And that's when I knew that was not going to last for me. It was a couple of years and it was just to get me money while I was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what I'm doing now. I used to bust my hump, breaking my back, mounting tires. And everybody thinks, oh, tires don't weigh that much. When you add in a 25 to 50 pound rim and you got a 15 to 20 pound tire, it takes a toll on the human body.
It does.
I did it for 15 years of my life. And for the last 3 before I got into management. And now that I'm in management, I still pull tires down for the techs so they don't have to do as much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why everybody at my shop likes working for me because I don't make them do everything on their own.
Right.
We need to have more of that type of people in management. Instead of just directing, actually give assistance to the people that work for you. Show them that you care about what they did because you've been there. Don't act like everybody that was your boss before. Don't just point and say, hey, go do it because I said so.
Yeah. Back when I was in the military, we called it leading from the front. There's a difference between a boss and a leader. You know,
Right.
Boss leads from behind, a leader leads from the front. You know, little lesson to everybody out there. And one more thing, and you touched on it. I mean, unless you're maybe a Jordan or a Kobe or LeBron or, you know, or something like anybody like that. In general, organizations don't have loyalty to you. That's why I never blame LeBron for leaving Cleveland the first time. He literally dragged a D+ team at best to the finals. And yes, I said D+ team because the year he left, they turned into an F team. Dan Gilbert failed to build him a team. It is what it is. You know, so with that being said, they have no loyalty to you. It's just real crazy amongst this is why I say fans are terrible. They give the front office a pass. They give these billionaires a pass that don't do nothing for the player, but the player. Okay, the player that's making millions, you know, they get shafted for the guy that's making billions. Keep that in mind. The guy that's making billions, you know. But hey, and Jeremy and George and Candy, I'm sure you've heard this phrase before we move on. No one cuts for billionaires like thousandaires. Anyway, on to our last topic.
I want to know how much Josh is getting paid for by Jeremy there.
I haven't cut a check.
Josh is a paid actor.
But, you know, in Orlando, Escobar said Scott wasn't on because he got him with the Ron Burgundy thing during Inside the Pigskin.
Oh, man, yeah.
You saw that, didn't you, Denzel?
I think so, yeah.
He actually got Scott to say that thing that I use for my podcast as a fake sponsor.
Oh man. Like
Andy's like, there's a reason I didn't put that up, Scott.
yeah, you like those infomercials at 3 a.m, and they get those really bad paid actors like, I use Al's cream because it heals me from. They like read off a teleprompter or something. It's like, yeah, it's obvious you got paid to say that. But anyway, moving on to our last topic here. Some good news, or some of you may find it's good news. But the Griners are expecting their first child. So Brittany Griner, not in the wake of, but about a year and a half after everything that happened of her, all last year and spending all that time in Russia and everything, on charges, and regardless of how you may feel about it, they brought her home and everything. She immediately rejoined the Mercury, played last season's, playing this season, and her wife, while she was locked up over there in Russia, who was very outwardly worried if she would ever see her again. And now here it is, a year and a half later, and they're expecting their first child. So they held a baby shower. They were surrounded by family and loved ones, and the baby's expected July of 2024. Jeremy, your thoughts? The Griners are bringing in a baby Griner.
Jeremy?
Well, congratulations. They get to have a baby. I don't have a problem with it because you know what? Everybody can do what they want. Now, is it the wife having the baby or is Brittany Griner having the baby?
The wife is having the baby.
Oh, okay. So the man still gets to go make the money. I get it.
There you go.
That's it. That's all there is.
All right. Well, and with that being said, we'll swing it on to George to get your thoughts about this on the Griners expecting a new one.
Well, I'm happy for them. That's what they want to do. I mean, I don't see anything bad about it. But there's a gentleman there from the state of Michigan, Mr. Paul Whelan, that has not been released by the powers that be, including Putin and his KBG thugs in Russia. So, as much as I'm happy that Griner got out, we got Mr. Whalen. We got another gentleman from the Wall Street Journal, I believe, that's been held prisoner. And supposedly the U.S. has been trying to get these guys out. Well, all I could say is they might have tried a little bit harder to get Brittany out. I'm not sure, but they got to get the other two free. Now, the problem is that, like we see this all the time, it's the ransom demands. I'll let your guy out, but you got to take care of me. You got to let 25 of mine out of the jail. We saw that with Hamas and Israel. And I know we're not supposed to talk politics, but it's hard to ignore it. Yes, I am happy. I'm glad she came home. I'm glad she's still, pursuing her dream with the WNBA. No matter what you think about marriage in that situation, hopefully this child, I'm sure, will be brought up in a loving household. So I'm happy for that. But let's not forget about our others that are still being held and incarcerated in Siberia or wherever they stuck them. And it's just something that's we've got to get freedom for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last but not least, Candy, your thoughts on this?
Whatever you believe should be a family, go ahead and believe. But as long as this child is brought up in a loving home, great for them and great for the kid. Like, you see so many kids these days that only have one parent for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that one parent can't raise a family. They definitely can. But there are so many that are brought up. Maybe how should I put it? With these two, they wanted to have a baby. And so good for them that they want to bring a baby into this world. I just hope they love it the way it needs to be, because there are so many kids that I think are born that maybe they weren't planned or necessarily wanted. And therefore, they don't have the same luxuries. And I think it's so important to be raised by parents that want to be parents,
Right.
not kids that want to be parents, or, but parents that want to be involved, because there are too many that aren't, and then they lack respect. And I hope they can teach them all of that. And as far as George saying about bringing all the other people home, we need to, because that's just sad. And the right thing is to bring them home.
You know, we got to
I
remember.
want to say, ahead.
Go ahead. No, you
No,
go
go
ahead. I'm sorry. Okay.
Nope.
The Court of Appeals there in Russia that deals with this stuff, they're very different than the courts here in America. That
Very.
court system is corrupt compared to what we are used to. And we say our court system is corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So they want us to release 10 of their biggest spies that were caught red-handed here in America to get back 2 people. And I understand not wanting to release that much, and it's going to go back and forth. And it's a political side that us out here just don't understand. But Russia's like trying to go shoot for the moon when they should be just trying to hit a 2-point shot.
Yeah, when they should. And you know what? In something like this, you can kind of compare it to sports as well. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, okay? Whenever you are asking for a pretty big acquisition, you have to, or before you do, you have to take a look back at what you have, and you have to ask, who are they going to ask for? What are they going to want? You know who the Victor Bout guy is, right? The arms dealer. They nicknamed him the Angel of Death. That should have been in the considerations. Knowing how bad he is, but that should, you know what? They may ask for this guy, just so you know, before you proceed on to make questions. I mean, come on, like, okay, Lions fans, right? Except the one in the middle. Lions fans, all right? If you want a player, a great defensive player, coming from, I don't know, Dallas or something like that, hey, they might ask for, and if he's like a top 5 defensive player, oh, hey, what are you guys going to want for St. Brown? Or what are you guys going to want for that? You have to be prepared for things like this. You got to be prepared. Take a look at what you have and think, hey, they might go after them. You still want to proceed with this? They may go after them. You still want to proceed with this? So yeah, this is something that you definitely can't handle with kid gloves. But again, just getting people the aspect of thinking like, okay, whenever it's something that you want and you want to trade, it's going to be something that they want. If you want something big, they're not going to want something small. They're going to want something of equal value. Some may even try to fleece you and want something bigger. So it just all depends on how you look at it and how much you're willing to go through with it. But that's this topic. And we got about 5-6 quick minutes left. If anybody has any pundit points, I know I have one. But Candy, do you have one?
I don't, but I'll come up with one if you go to the other panelists.
Jeremy?
I want to talk about something that I put in for Fire Up. Vermont Christian Valley Girls High School team was playing for the semifinal in the national championship. They found out there was a biological man, a transgender woman, playing,
I heard about that.
and they forfeited. And I applaud it because it's about time one of the schools that are playing with girls says, I'm not going to do this. And I think it's a great thing.
I think more and more schools should actually stand up and do that. And once because it's about the bigger picture here. You remember when Leah, formerly Liam Thomas, won swimming, and then up there on the victory stand, all the other girls refused to stand next to him. Yeah, more and more people would listen. This is not sitting here saying that transgenders can't play, but they have to play in the men's division or create their own division. You just had somebody get their orbital bone broken in MMA. You remember that, Jeremy?
Yep.
Yeah, because they fought a man. It is what it is. I don't know what people have going against biology and thinking just sticking a label on something makes them what they are. It's not. It's not. I don't care. I don't care how much of a bad guy you want to call me. You want to flame me and roast me? Go for it. I will decapitate you verbally. That is something I feel strongly about. That was wrong. That was wrong. And no, they should not be competing with the women. They should be competing in the men's division. Good for those girls for standing up and refusing to play. With that being said, George, it's on you. Take it away.
Well, I want to salute a young lady named Ashley Moyer Gleish. She is the first woman that's going to work the NBA playoffs since Violet Palmer did in 2012. So 12 years ago was the last time we had a female referee in the NBA postseason. So the NBA announced today that 36 officials are going to be working the first round, and then it gets cut every round. You know, they lop off 6 or 8 others until it gets to the finals. But Violet Palmer was a referee in the league for a good many years, and she worked between 2006 and 2012. She worked a total, I believe, 8 playoff games. So the National Basketball Association has been doing a good job of recruiting females and minorities to be officials in their league. It definitely helps that they run the G League. Obviously, that's kind of like a training ground for their officials. So, and I also want to salute 2 gentlemen who also will be working their first NBA playoffs, Marat Kolgut and JT Orr. So along with Moyer Gulch, they are going to be working in the NBA playoffs. And so congratulations to all of them. It should be an exciting postseason in the NBA. And that's my pundit point.
All right. And now I'll take this pundit point next. And would like to send it. We actually talked about them on Cubfidential just last night during our This Cubs for You segment. And I want to send a shout to Cubs rookie infielder Michael Bush, who actually tied a club record by homering in 5 straight games. He joins Christopher Morel, Ryan Sandberg, Sammy Sosa, and Hack Wilson. Hack Wilson was the first to do it in 1928 in achieving this feat. Now, I want you to think about the company of this for a second, okay? Legend, legend, legend. Numbers 4 and 5 are currently on the same roster, and Morel did it last year. And Bush already has 8 home runs on the year, and the season just started 3 weeks ago. So insane, right? But shout out to that young man. That's my pundit point. Candy, on to you.
So my pundit point is going to go to Caitlin Clark, and I know we've talked about her a lot.
Really?
Kudos to her for bringing such an awareness to the game of women's basketball. She was the number 1 draft pick. Her record sales for her jersey hit off the top. Just 2 hours after the Indiana Fever selected her, she was the top selling jersey of any draft pick. She even beat out Trevor Lawrence of the NFL. The other thing she did was people watched the WNBA draft. They had a record audience. Let me see if I can find. I just had it, and of course I just lost it. So I'm going to quick see if I can get it again. Draws 2.45 million viewers for their draft. That is unheard of. That is, and it peaked at 3.09 million viewers.
Most viewed in history.
Most viewed in history. The sad thing, and this was one of my points last night. The sad thing is her 4-year deal with the Indiana Fever is less than 4 mascots for the NBA get paid in 1 year.
Unbelievable.
I understand that women's sports have lagged and haven't had the support and the audience, and so that's partly why. But there needs to be better, because this is a professional sport, and a mascot doesn't have anything to do with the team on the field.
Yeah. Agreed.
So,
oh man.
I would like to go to the chat, because we have been kind of not as into the chat, and they wanted to take us to the chat to wrap up the show. So I'm going to put us all up, and we're going to quick read some of them. Smoking Jeremy B. There you go.
Mhm.
Stand up to the BS. Yes, I almost said it out loud. We all know about Rockman Giggly Gator. It is sick. Mental health is a thing. Yes, I read that immediately and smiled when you said it. Some of us agree, some of us don't, and nobody's ever going to truly agree because we're all entitled to our own opinion. I'm never going to degrade somebody for their contribution, and I hope that nobody ever degrades me for mine, because we all have the right to those opinions,
Right.
good or bad. Smoking Dad with a hello, everyone. Yep, Bird versus Magic vibes with Indiana versus LA. Live it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
I think I love it. Yeah.
So we just
Big
had to get
three
some of those up there.
contract.
All
You
right.
know, and we can say what we want about the contract, but if you actually take the percentage that the women's get from the WNBA out of the net profits and match it up with the percentage that the men get out of the NBA, the women actually get a bigger percentage than the men. Percentage wise, it all has to do with sponsorship, TV ratings, TV money. Until
everything
that
else.
goes up, their pay don't go up.
Mm-hmm. And
So we can gripe and complain all we want that they make this little amount. It's the same with the women's U.S. soccer team.
mm-hmm.
They make 750 million. The men make 3 billion. I'm upset because I don't make as much as them, but they make 38% more than what the men do.
Yep. That's true. And you heard me allude to it last week or 2 weeks ago. Part of the problem are the fans. Get up, go to the games, buy the tickets, buy the merchandise. This adds to their salaries. If you're sitting here saying, "Oh, well, they don't make enough," and you complaining and everything, but yet you're part of the problem if you're in the same city and you don't get your ass to a game.
I actually went and watched the Detroit Shock while Bill Laimbeer was coaching. Why? They were winners and they were good. It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
And say what you want. If you're an old head basketball fan, you'll love what the women do because it's old style basketball, just no hand checks.
That's
It's
true.
fundamentally sound.
It is. Well, Candy, I think that's all we got. Swinging on to you to end the show.
Okay, well, in that corner by George, if you see a little red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us, and I know the chat has said we all subscribe. Well, then share it with all your friends because not everybody else subscribes, and I'm sure they'd enjoy some of the programming that we have on our channel. We have baseball, 108 Stitches baseball talk on Monday nights. We have Inside the Pigskin on Tuesday nights, where we talk all things football. In fact, we're going to have some things from the draft, so watch for updates on our channel next week. Wednesday night is Sports Exchange, and typically Scott does Motor City Mad Mouth Show, which is a one-on-one interview show that he does. Then Thursday nights you'll find Pundits, and after that you will find Fire Up, which Jeremy and myself co-host, and then George does come on that show. He graces us with his presence. And let's see, if you listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. But the big thing is that we always promote Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Go out and get it. Amazon, Google, Apple, Barnes & Noble, and Kindle. Get your copy today.
Before I say anything, I would just want to say one more thing. Rocket scientist, if I asked if I'm excited for the draft, I'm giddier than a schoolgirl going prom dress shopping.
There you go.
Josh. And someone asked earlier in the chat if Will was going to be on Fire Up tonight, and Will cannot be on Fire Up tonight. So, unfortunately, Ken says he wants to play some tunes on your piano there, George.
Sure, come on over. Private message me. I'll tell you. I'll give you my address.
But I will say thank you to everybody that commented in the chat room. We love all the chats. We really love the questions, and we try to get to them It's just that if we're in the middle of a point, sometimes it's hard to get to those questions because sometimes they're off the topic. And so we want to stay on point and finish our thoughts and then try to go back to the chat. But we do appreciate all of you in the chat room. With that being said, Denzel, how can people find you?
Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on Facebook, Sideline Sports Network, also the Gauntlet on Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, as well as James Tatum 12. We will be live tomorrow night, and we will be doing a draft preview, and we'll also talk about the we always do a team for off-season preview. You'll see it in the preview whenever I send the thread out.
George, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I write for the Motor City Tribune, which is under the South Florida Tribune banner. And I also have a book out there, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Oh, thank you, Jeremy. You remembered. One gentleman who we love in this town is 94 years old. Happy birthday to Ray Lane, Detroit, longtime sports broadcaster, former color commentator with Ernie Harwell. Happy birthday, Ray. 94 years young. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com or find me on Twitter at SanGSports99 and also on whatever that is called, LinkedIn as well. You can find me here at the 108 Stitches, Sports Exchange, Pundits Pundit, Fire Up, any one of these great shows. Glad to be part of the fun. Great show tonight, guys and lady.
Jeremy, how can people get a hold of you?
All right, you can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune channel. Whereas any one of these people right here at any time when Scott needs me, you can also find me on the South Florida Tribune channel, the SouthFlorida.com. I got tongue-tied. It happened. I'm human. I'm not perfect. But he asked if I need my own show. I do have my own show. So if you want to see it, you can go watch me. I'm live 8 times a week, every day at 11 a.m., Monday through Friday, and Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 p.m. And that is on Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. You can watch me on Wednesday night. I cover the whole NFL. I go for the top 3 news stories throughout the week. Since it's been draft time, it's been mock draft fever. Everybody's got it. They want to see, well, what do you think? You know what? It doesn't matter what we think, because guess what? It matters what the GM and the coach think.
Yep.
That's who it all comes down to. And I love the fact, and you said something earlier, the billionaires got to be held accountable. And that's exactly why I love the fact that WCF, William Clay Ford Sr.'s initials have been removed from the Detroit Lions uniforms. He had one good season in the entire time he owned them since 1963. And that was the year that we went to an NFC championship game and got dog walked by the Washington Redskins back in 1992.
Jeremy, will you be going live from the draft?
I'm going live with these guys. We're all going to be there going live. I remember right.
Oh no, I meant for kneecap biting.
Oh yeah, I got my my co-host Dan Leonard. I'm going to get my restream up and running, and they are going to do live draft coverage of the entire draft. While I'm there, I'm going to pop in on my phone because I won't be able to do it from my computer, evidently. So I'm going to pop in there from my phone and give updates throughout the draft, of course, especially if there's any draft day trades, because we remember last year was the most draft day trades in NFL history with 44. And our Detroit Lions led the way with 8 of them. And yes, Joshua Dorr, I do allow ball busting on my show. We talk shit to our other, because there is no better way to say it. Candy's heard me do it. Denzel's heard me do it. He's heard me call people out. I say some stupid stuff to people that say stupid things in the chat. I said, hey, I really like that opinion. I also like to wipe my butt before I take a crap.
Okay, moving right along.
Move along. Next.
Come on, we got another show, Candy. Let's come on, wrap it up.
We do. Okay, guys. Jeremy, you want to end it?
Sure, try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. That's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. It was great watching all of you. Tune in, stay tuned in if you're going to watch Fire Up. And no, I love Orlando Escobar. I doubt Candy's going to say that.
I don't even look at it. I think we'll end the show just right there. Stay tuned for Fire Up coming up next. Thanks, everybody.